was March 2022, one of those damp Saturday afternoons that the city insists on having, even at the end of winter. I had prepared my signature pot roast, the same recipe I'd been making since they were little, with authentic spices and fresh vegetables from the market. The table was set with the embroidered tablecloth I received at my wedding, the crystal glasses I only use on special occasions. Because this was special, it really was. My 3 sons had all received promotions at the same company. What father wouldn't be thrilled? Robert arrived first, always punctual when it comes to free food. At 45, my eldest son had developed that successful executive's belly, and the air of superiority that comes with it. "Dad, you really outdid yourself today." "Huh? It's like you actually have money to spare." The first stab. I smiled, just like I always did. Michael and Andrew arrived right after, with their families in tow. My daughters-in-law greeted me with those fake air kisses. My teenage grandkids barely looked up from their phones. But that was fine. Family is like that, I thought. The important thing is being together. During dinner, they talked about their promotions. Robert was now a regional manager. Michael was taking the comptroller position. Andrew was joining the main legal team. All at Millennium Construction, all moving up in life. I listened with pride, asking the right questions, showing genuine interest. It was when they finished eating that all hell broke loose. Robert stood up, grabbed his wine glass, a Cabernet I had bought specially for the occasion, and said, "A toast to our father, who has finally accepted that he is nothing in life." The silence lasted less than a second before the explosion of laughter. Michael bent forward, roaring. "It's true," he said. Andrew chimed in, wiping away tears from laughing so hard. At least now he'll stop giving advice about things he knows nothing about. My daughters-in-law laughed too. The grandkids laughed. My own table, in my own home, turned into a courtroom where I was the convicted defendant. "Remember when he tried to give opinions on buying Robert's apartment?" said Patricia. My eldest daughter-in-law, as if he knew anything about real estate. "Or when he wanted to comment on investments," Michael added. "Dad, with all due respect, you barely know what a savings account is." I remained seated, my fork suspended in the air with a piece of meat I could no longer swallow. My stomach had become a cold to heavy stone. Robert continued his humiliating speech. "It's better this way. That you accept your limitations. People like you should settle for the minimum and stop dreaming big." That phrase, that exact phrase. I heard it when I was 7 years old, when a teacher said that poor kids like me shouldn't dream big. The same phrase that motivated me to build everything I built. And now, 60 years later, my own son threw it in my face. "We just want you to be realistic." "Dad," Andrew said, faking kindness. "Accept your situation and stop meddling where you're not needed." It was in that moment that I felt something change inside me. A coldness that started at the base of my skull and went down my spine like melting ice, for the first time in decades. My mask of the submissive father began to crack. Why didn't they know? They had no idea who was really sitting at the head of that table, cutting roast beef, with hands that had signed multi-million-dollar contracts. They didn't know that the poor guy who always asked for help was Charles Samuel Roberts, the CEO of the Roberts Group, the same company that controlled Millennium Construction, where they had just been promoted. I swallowed the piece of meat in my mouth, took a sip of wine, and smiled. "You're right," I said with the sweetest voice I could manufacture. "A man my age should know his place." They clapped. They literally clapped. And it was in that moment that the real Charles woke up, the double life, to understand what happened at that table. You need to know the double life I've been living for over 20 years. A life so well constructed that not even my own children suspected the truth. To them, I was Charles Samuel Roberts, a 65-year-old widower who lived in a simple house in a working-class neighborhood, drove an old 2010 Nissan Sentra, and lived off my late wife's pension, plus a small teacher's retirement. A man who bought clothes at discount stores, shopped at the wholesale market, and always asked for help when the electric bill came in high. This version of me wore sandals at home, religiously watched the 6 o'clock news, and kept coins in an empty coffee can. He complained about the price of gas, haggled at the market, and talked about these crazy prices every time we went out to eat, which was rare because money was tight. It was such a perfect performance that sometimes I forgot it was a lie. The real Charles was someone completely different. Someone who wore Armani suits, drove an armored BMW, and commanded meetings in downtown offices. Someone who had started with a plot of land inherited from his father in the 80 seconds, and built a real estate empire now valued at over $50 million. When my wife Josephine died in 2001, I had a choice. I could reveal our true wealth to the children, because Josephine always knew. She was always my silent partner. Or I could protect them from the corruption that easy money brings. I chose to protect them. I thought it was love. What a bitter joke. During the week, I was the CEO of the Roberts Group. I analyzed projects, signed contracts, made decisions that affected hundreds of jobs. On weekends, I returned home and pretended to have trouble understanding the phone bill. "Oh, son, can you check this for me? I don't understand these modern things." They loved explaining the basics to me. It made them feel important, superior. Robert especially, always with that condescending, professorial air. "Dad, this is how credit cards work. Dad, let me handle this. You don't have to worry." I let them believe for 20 years that they were the smart ones in the family, that they had inherited their intelligence from who knows where, while I was just a well-intentioned, but limited, family ornament. The 2-bedroom apartment in the working-class neighborhood was real. I really lived there, among piles of cheap clothes and discount furniture, 3 blocks away, in a building I had built myself, and where I kept a penthouse under a corporate name. I kept my real life, a walk-in closet with designer clothes, an art collection, a library with first editions, a climate-controlled wine cellar. It was there that I received Dr. Paul Carver, my lawyer and only confidant, a man of integrity who for 15 years insisted that I should tell my children the truth. "Charles, this farce is going to cause problems. They have a right to know who their father really is." I always refused. "Paul, you don't understand. I want them to build their own paths, to have their own merit. If they know I'm rich, they'll get comfortable. They'll become parasites, as if they hadn't become that anyway. For decades, I watched my children grow up believing I was a dead weight in their lives, that they had to put up with me out of obligation, help me out of Christian charity, always with that air of martyrs, as if supporting their poor old dad was a terrible burden they bore with heroic resignation. Robert graduated with a business degree, got an internship at some company. 2 years later, coincidentally, Millennium Construction, one of my subsidiaries, had a perfect position for him. The HR manager, without knowing who I was, hired my son based purely on his resume. Robert never knew his luck, had a name and address. Michael and Andrew followed the same path, accounting and law, respectively. Both were conveniently absorbed by the same company that had hired their older brother. What a wonderful coincidence, right? I watched from afar, through discreet reports, their promotions in the company. I felt proud when they received praise from supervisors, worried when they made mistakes, but I could never show that I knew. When they came home talking about projects, I pretended not to understand anything. "How interesting. Son, you're so smart." They swallowed it all. The worst part is that they became good professionals. Really. Robert had natural business instinct. Michael was meticulous with numbers. Andrew understood complex contracts. They didn't need my invisible protection to thrive, but I kept protecting them anyway. Until that night in March, when I discovered that, to them, I wasn't a father who deserved love and respect. I was just a pathetic old man they tolerated out of social obligation. People like you should settle for the minimum. The same phrase that built me had now returned to destroy me. Except this time it wasn't spoken by a prejudiced teacher. It was my own blood. 3 days later, 3 days after the dinner, I kept pretending everything was normal. I called each of them to thank them for the lovely family evening and congratulate them on their promotions. They were polite, but colder, as they always were. I realize now. The following Wednesday, Robert called. "Dad, you have a few minutes? I wanted to talk about something important." My heart leaped. Maybe I had exaggerated, maybe he wanted to apologize, explain that the joke was in bad taste. "Of course. Son, want to come here? I'll make coffee. Actually, it's better if you come to my house. Michael and Andrew will be there too. Is it about, well, about your future?" "My future? How interesting." I arrived at Robert's apartment at 3 in the afternoon, driving my Sentra and wearing a simple shirt from the thrift store. They were all in the living room with serious expressions they tried to disguise as loving concern. "Sit here, Dad," Andrew said, patting the sofa next to him. "We want to talk about some possibilities to improve your quality of life." Robert pulled a folder from the coffee table. Inside were color-printed brochures, all for nursing homes. My blood ran cold. "Dad, it's nothing definite." Robert began with that condescending tone I knew so well. "But we've been thinking that maybe you're very lonely in that house." "That's right," Michael agreed. "You're 65 now. And after Mom's death, it's been almost 22 years. "Michael," I interrupted. "Exactly. Too much time alone. It's not healthy." Andrew leaned forward, adopting his best persuasive tone. "Look at these places. Dad, they have activities. People your age. Medical assistance 24 hours a day." I grabbed one of the brochures. Street Vincent's nursing home. On the back, a price list. $600 a month. The cheapest of the bunch. "We already visited some," Robert said. "This one here is very good. Simple, but clean. Within what we can contribute." Within what they could contribute. $600 divided by 3 was $200 each, the price of a good pizza delivery. "And my house?" I asked, flipping through the brochures. The three exchanged glances. Robert cleared his throat. "Well, the truth is that house is too big for you. And the neighborhood is getting complicated. A lot of violence. We could sell it," Michael added quickly. "Use the money to pay for the nursing home. And there would still be a little left over for you to have your little things. And divide what's left among yourselves?" I asked. Uncomfortable silence. "Dad, it's not like that," Andrew said. "It's just that, well, we have our own families now. Children to raise, mortgages to pay. Mom's inheritance would help a lot." Mom's inheritance. A $200,000 house that Josephine had bought in the 90s, carefully chosen to seem modest. They didn't even suspect it had been paid off for decades, or that there were 17 other properties scattered around the city. "And when would this move be?" I asked. "We thought maybe by the end of the month," Robert suggested. "I already scheduled a visit to Street Vincent's for Monday. Want to go with us? End of the month? 2 weeks? Can I think about it?" "Of course. Dad, no rush at all." Robert lied. "We just want what's best for you." I returned home in absolute silence. I didn't even turn on the car radio. I needed to process what I had discovered. My children weren't just humiliating me for fun. They were actively planning to get rid of me. That night I called Dr. Paul. "Paul, it's me. Can you come to my house? The real one, not the facade." "Charles, did something happen?" "What happened is that you were right 15 years ago. This farce is going to cause problems." "What did they do?" "They want to put me in a $600 a month nursing home." Silence on the other end of the line. "I'm on my way." Dr. Paul arrived an hour later, finding me in the downtown penthouse, with an open bottle of French wine, and an expression he had never seen on my face. "Tell me everything," he said, pouring himself a glass. I told him about the dinner, about the laughter, about today's meeting, about the nursing home brochures, and the 2-week deadline, about how they talked about the inheritance as if I were already dead. "They're acting like I'm a burden they need to manage as cheaply as possible." I finished. They want to put me in a nursing home, where they'll visit me once a month out of obligation, and get on with their lives as if I never existed. Paul took a long sip of wine. And now? Now I'm going to show them exactly who Charles Samuel Roberts is. Charles. Think carefully. It's one thing to tell the truth. It's another too. Another what? Think about revenge? I smiled for the first time in 3 days. No, Paul. I'm thinking about justice. There's a difference. What justice? Justice is giving people exactly what they deserve. That night, for the first time in 20 years, I couldn't sleep thinking about my children. But this time, it wasn't paternal worry keeping me awake. It was strategic planning. A professional investigator of my own family. For 20 years, I pretended to be stupid. Now I was going to use all my business intelligence to uncover their lives. I called Dr. Paul on Friday morning. I need all the reports from Millennium Construction from the last 6 months. Performance, attendance, corporate expenses. Everything you can get without raising suspicions. Charles, this doesn't seem like a good idea. Paul, you've been my partner for 15 years. I've never asked you for anything unethical. I just want to know if my children are the exemplary employees they think they are. Silence. I'll send you the email in 2 hours. While I waited, I began my own domestic investigation. For years, Robert left things at my house when he visited. Cell phone charger, sunglasses, even his laptop sometimes. He never suspected I knew how to use a computer. In my bedroom drawer, the real one in the penthouse, I found an iPhone charger he had forgotten a month ago. His phone was still with him, of course, but I had other plans. On Saturday afternoon, I called Robert. Son, can you come over quickly? I'm having trouble with the sink faucet, and I can't reach the plumber. Oh, Dad. Today of all days. I wanted to watch the game with the guys. Please. It's just a quick look. It must be something simple. He arrived half an hour later with a sour face. While he fixed the faucet, which had no problem, obviously, I offered him coffee. Want to charge your phone while you're here? I know you forgot your charger the other day. Oh, right. Thanks. Dad. It's almost dead. Perfect. While Robert pretended to understand plumbing, I discreetly installed a family tracking app on his phone, the kind parents use to monitor teenagers. The irony was delicious. Done. Dad. Just had to tighten it. Oh, you're so smart. I never would have known that. He smiled with that condescending superiority that was already making me sick. That's what sons are for, right, Dad? On Sunday, Dr. Paul's emails arrived. I opened the files in my private office, with 2 computer screens and a laser printer. Equipment that poor Charles could never afford. What I discovered left me interested. Robert, the exemplary regional manager, had 23% unexplained absences in the last 6 months. Arrivals after 10 a.m. recorded 15 times. Departures before 4 p.m. on at least 12 occasions. For someone who was supposed to work from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., it was impressive. Michael, the meticulous accountant, had used the corporate card 47 times for questionable expenses, $200 dinners, gasoline from stations near his house, even pharmacy purchases, all classified as representation expenses or corporate use. Andrew, the serious lawyer, maintained constant private meetings during work hours. According to reports, in March alone he had registered 12 external meetings, lasting between 2 and 4 hours. The problem was, there was no record of clients or objectives for these meetings. More interesting still, all 3 had below-average performance compared to colleagues. They weren't bad employees, but they definitely weren't the exceptional talents they believed themselves to be. On Monday, I feigned concern and called Robert, son. Are you sure this new job isn't too strenuous? You look tired. Not at all. Dad, it's fine. In fact, the manager position is quite flexible. I can adjust my hours as needed. Adjust hours. An elegant way of saying arrive late and leave early. During the week, I tested the tracking app. It worked perfectly, Robert really did arrive between 9:30 and 10 a.m. at the company. He went out for lunches that lasted 2 hours and frequently handled external matters that were actually trips to the mall, the gym, or visits to the mistress he kept in a fancy neighborhood. Yes, I discovered the mistress too, 3 different addresses, in the last 3 months, always the same days of the week, always during hours when he should have been working. On Wednesday, I called Michael. Son, how does this company card thing work? The other day you mentioned they gave you one. Oh, it's for work expenses. Dad, meetings, gas, things like that. Nothing major? And do they control it much? Not really, as long as it's work-related. Work-related like buying blood pressure medication at the pharmacy in his neighborhood. On Thursday, it was Andrew's turn. Son, you're always running around. These new clients must be giving you a lot of work. Yes, Dad, it's exhausting, but I like to give personal attention. You know, meeting after meeting to build relationships. Relationships is one way to see it, especially considering the meetings always took place at the same physical therapy clinic where his wife received treatment. 5 months of meetings at the same place. What a dedicated client. On Friday, Dr. Paul came to dinner at the penthouse. He had a worried expression. Charles, I got the information you asked for, but are you sure you want to proceed with this? There's still time to just tell the truth and resolve everything as a family. Paul, on Monday, they're taking me to see the nursing home. How do you know? Robert called today confirming he scheduled it for 2 p.m. He said it's better to resolve this matter soon so everyone can be at peace. Paul sighed. And what's your plan? I'm still refining the details, but I already know enough to know that my dear children are not the exemplary employees they pretend to be. Are you going to fire them? Firing them would be too simple, don't you think? Any boss would do that, but I'm not just any boss. Paul, I'm their father, and fathers know how to educate children who have misbehaved. Over the weekend, I decided to expand my investigation. If I was going to do this right, I needed to fully understand how my children really saw me, not just during direct confrontations, but day to day. On Saturday morning, I called Patricia, my eldest daughter-in-law. Patricia, do you have a few minutes? I'm a little lost with some bills here. Of course, Mr. Roberts. I'll be there in an hour. Patricia arrived with that artificial smile I already knew well, but now I paid real attention to the details. The way she looked around the house as if assessing a property for purchase. How she sighed discreetly when I asked her silly questions about the phone bill. Mr. Roberts, have you thought about simplifying these things? Now there's automatic digital billing. You wouldn't even have to worry. Oh, but I'm too old for these modern things, aren't I? It's not a matter of age, it's a matter of, well, adapting to the times. For 2 hours she helped me with my bills, always with that tone of someone doing Christian charity. But what caught my attention was when her phone rang. Hi, honey, I'm at your dad's house. It's those bills. He can't figure them out alone. Uh-huh. No, I won't be long, it's a bit complicated. But it's quick. I'll be there in an hour. Complicated. Interesting. When she hung up, I asked, was that Robert? Yes. He's at home with the kids. It's good that you help each other like that. Family is everything. Right? Absolutely. Mr. Roberts, you can always count on us. After she left, I kept thinking about that tone. Complicated. As if I were a difficult child that needed to be managed. On Sunday, I used a different strategy. I called Michael and pretended to feel sick. Son, can you come over? I feel a bit weird. Dizzy. Dad, is it serious? Want me to take you to the hospital? No. No. I don't think so. It's just low blood pressure. But I was kind of alone and got scared. He arrived in 20 minutes. Genuinely worried. For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. Maybe I was exaggerating. Maybe there was still salvation for our relationship. Until he answered a call in my kitchen. Hi, honey. No, it's my dad. He's having one of his attention crises. You know how he is. Always inventing little problems so people pay attention to him. I won't be long. I just need to make an appearance for a few minutes and pretend I'm worried. Pretend I was worried. When he returned to the living room, he was smiling affectionately. How do you feel now, Dad? Better. It must have been just a scare. You have to take better care of yourself. Eat well. Not worry about silly things. Silly things. Like the bills he himself helped me understand while feigning angelic patience. Michael, can I ask you something? Of course, Dad. Do you think I'm a burden in your lives? He seemed genuinely surprised. Dad, how can you think that? I don't know. Sometimes I get the impression I bother you a lot. You never bother us. We just want to take care of you. It's our obligation. Obligation, not love. Not affection.